Percy Jackson is the titular character in the Percy Jackson series. As a son of Poseidon, Percy has many powers and abilities, which we saw in the show and the books. Today, I'll be going through them all, and without further ado, let's get started. One of the first and foremost abilities that Percy has is both ADHD and dyslexia. These traits are normal for demigods, and though generally classified as disabilities, they prove to be strengths for demigods. ADHD provides awareness and alertness for a demigod in combat, while dyslexia is there because demigods understand Greek and Latin words instead of languages like English. Another general ability that Percy has is leadership. Despite his generally low self-esteem, Percy is a surprisingly good leader. He led the demigods to victory in the Battle of Manhattan in The Last Olympian, and he also led mortal kids to the fight in The Son of Sebek. Kane even compared Percy to Horus, the Egyptian god of war, as Percy was a natural commander. Wit and intelligence are other abilities that Percy has. Though Annabeth is usually the brains of the operation, Percy is not as stupid as some people in the fandom might perceive him to be. He's shown to be observant, knowledgeable, and pretty persuasive, as he manages to trick enemies like Chrysaor in the Mark of Athena, and even the Nemean lion. And now, let's go to Percy's abilities that are more geared towards combat. The first ability we'll talk about is swordsmanship. Percy's primary weapon is a sword Riptide, and he has used the weapon ever since The Lightning Thief or the first book. Percy was trained under the demigod son of Hermes named Castellan, and he became a very proficient sword fighter. We saw this in the many moments in the Riordan-verse. This includes the fight Percy had with the literal god of war Ares, wherein Percy managed to cut Ares' heel. Percy trained a lot in camp to develop his skill in combat, and this allowed him to defeat many monsters that were much more powerful than him. He also beat the demigod son of Nemesis named Ethan Nakamura, who was also a skilled swordsman. Percy's skill is further shown in the Son of Neptune when he defeats ghosts sent by Gaia while defending the Eagle of Camp Jupiter. Frank Chong even mentioned how Percy was a beast in battle, and this was more proven when Percy and a demigod son of Jupiter named Jason Grace fought in the Mark of Athena. Jason was considered to be the best sword fighter at Camp Jupiter, yet Percy managed to knock Jason out. Although it's important to note that Jason was distracted by Piper McLean's charm streak, which made him not fight Percy as much, it's still a feat of skill on Percy's part. Percy also managed to get the upper hand against Kane in a short story called The Son of Sebek. This is another example of strength on Percy's part because defeating Carter takes great skill, as Carter specializes in combat magic. Superhuman strength comes next, and there are many examples of Percy demonstrating this. At an early age, Percy managed to strangle snakes who were trying to kill him, kinda like how Hercules did in the myths. Percy also managed to rip the Minotaur's horn and kill the Minotaur with it, despite not having any combat training whatsoever. Percy also managed to break Clarisse's spear like a twig during Capture the Flag, and even hold his own against the Cyclops Polyphemus in the Sea of Monsters. The next ability is superhuman durability. As son of Poseidon, Percy is more durable than the average mortal. He was able to sustain blows from his fight with Ares, recover from many attacks from monsters, and fight the Titan Atlas in the Titan's Curse. Superhuman reflexes is next, and it's seen when Percy was able to deflect the bullet that was aimed at him, and he was also able to cut a volley of arrows in the Sea of Monsters book. Next is superhuman agility. Through jumping on the Minotaur, dodging attacks from Ares, and fighting the giant Antaeus, Percy is shown to be more agile than the average person. And now, let's talk about Percy's main abilities that are related to the water. First is hydrokinesis. Percy can control huge amounts of water with his will. He can also make oxygen bubbles underwater, as seen what he did with Annabeth in the Sea of Monsters and The Last Olympian. Percy can also breathe underwater and summon waves from the sea, and overall, he has absolute control over it. Water solidification comes next, and it allows Percy to harden water into an almost solid shape, to help him walk on water and fight enemies. Hydrogenesis is another ability, and through this, Percy can summon the power of the ocean inside him. This power resulted in Percy causing the explosion of Mount St. Helens in the Battle of the Labyrinth. He made hurricanes with it in the Battle of Manhattan, and he used this power to make storms alongside Jason on the Argo II. Another water power is water empowerment. When exposed to the water, Percy gains more of his strength. He can heal because of water and get more energy to fight. This is seen when Percy is placed in the water and he manages to fight off Clarisse in the Ares cabin. Though this gives him more strength than he needs, This only lasts for a limited time, and Percy needs to be in contact with water to get more energy. Water immunity comes next, and this makes Percy invulnerable to any type of water pressure. Percy fell from the gateway arch and into the nearby river, but he wasn't hurt at all. Percy can also manage when he wants to get wet or not, as demonstrated in the Demigod files when Percy was completely dry after fighting the Titan Iapetus. In the Chalice of Gods, Percy even calls 200 feet of water nothing for a son of Poseidon, which shows just how powerful Percy is with the water. Probably the most interesting power that Percy has is toxikinesis. A main moment that highlighted this was Percy's encounter with the goddess of poison Achilles in the House of Hades. Percy managed to control the poison and choke the goddess with it, which shows that Percy can be a very dangerous demigod if he wants to be. Percy doesn't like this ability of his, however, because it shows his darker side and allows him to be more powerful than he expected, which is why in the Blood of Olympus, he didn't decide to deflect the poison that the giant Polybotus threw at him. But overall, Percy has this ability. Because water can heal him, Percy is shown to have a bit of healing magic or vitakinesis. However, this is a bit limited because Percy can't cure everything with just water. Aside from all these water abilities, Percy's abilities also extend to watercraft manipulation, which includes his knowledge about ships and submarines. Percy can naturally operate a ship or boat, like when he drove the ship called Queen Anne's Revenge in the Sea of Monsters. In the Son of Neptune, Percy also manages to steer the Roman boat called Pax, and he sailed the Argo II with Annabeth in the Mark of Athena. With this skill, Percy is also able to know where they are based on the nautical coordinates, which he uses in the Chalice of Gods. With all of these powers related to the ocean, Percy was also given the ability to communicate with all sea creatures. He was able to talk to Frank, even though Frank had turned to a giant goldfish in the Mark of Athena, and generally, Percy has power over all of his father's subjects. From these water-related powers, let's head to Percy's magical abilities. First is the Curse of Achilles. Percy was able to get this curse in The Last Olympian when he bathed in the river Styx. Percy was given supernatural speed, strength, and invulnerability except for his navel, or his Achilles spot. With this curse, Percy was able to bring down enemies and armies in the Battle of Manhattan, but he did lose this ability in the Son of Neptune, when Percy landed in the river Tiber of Camp Jupiter. The river cleansed Percy of the curse as he couldn't enter camp with it. The next ability is an empathy link he has with a satyr named Grover Underwood. In the events of the Sea of Monsters, Grover was captured by the Cyclops Polyphemus, and to contact Percy, Grover formed an empathy link with Percy so that they could communicate telepathically. This bond he has with Grover is actually a little bit risky, because it was said that if one of them died, the other one would die too or go into a vegetative state. A temporary ability Percy had was the Eye of Horus symbol, which allowed Percy to call on Carter Kane just by saying Carter's name. Percy could only use this ability once, however, and he used it to call on Carter and Sadie Kane to help him and Annabeth to Governor's Island to find Setne. The last ability on this list is a limited ability of mist control. Percy isn't an expert at manipulating the mist like Hazel Levesque or Thalia Grace, but in one instance in the book known as Percy Jackson and the Singer of Apollo, Percy was able to trick a security guard into believing that there was a line of limos to distract the officer. Percy is a very powerful demigod in his generation, and it's seen in the many moments he has in both the show and the books. So I decided to make this video to show just how much power he actually possesses. So how about you? What's your favorite Percy ability? Let me know in the comments down below.